He passed her final test. Then she became something beautiful. Asterisk, he wasn't supposed to survive her mating trial. When the Zarian scout ship Vortex of Dawn picked up signs of a Terran escape pod drifting near the EOS expanse, the crew expected salvage, maybe a corpse, maybe some data. What they found instead was a half-naked human man, alive, breathing, and somehow sleeping through a level 5 radiation storm like he was napping on a beach. Commander Silvera stood over the pod, arms crossed, silver eyes narrowing. "He's alive?" she asked. The medical officer nodded, looking both confused and impressed. "Yes, Commander. No burns, no mutations, no sign of panic. He's just sleeping." Silvera leaned closer, inspecting him. The human's chest rose and fell with calm breaths. Scars crisscrossed his torso, some old, some recent. His jaw was square, his hair dark and messy, and he had the kind of relaxed expression that didn't belong to someone lost in deep space. It was almost arrogant. They brought him aboard. The moment he opened his eyes and sat up, stretching like he had just woke from a Sunday nap, she realized this human wasn't normal. "Where am I?" he asked casually, his voice low and gravelly. "You are aboard the Vortex of Dawn, Zarian command ship." Silvera answered, towering over him. "You were exposed to lethal radiation. How are you still alive?" he gave. A shrug and a grin. "Earth's Marines don't die easy." He looked up at her then, really looked at her dark obsidian skin, the silver glow in her eyes, her tall, muscular frame, and smiled wider. "You're tall," he said. "I like tall." Most males who met Silvera flinched. This one flirted. Former Reyes. Former Earth Marine. That's what his data chip said. Honorable discharge. 3-time medal recipient. 0 known family. 0 known limits, apparently, as protocol demanded. Silvera placed him under observation, but she watched him more closely than her orders required. He sparred in the ship's training bay daily. No one could match him in hand-to-hand combat, not even her lieutenant. He laughed when he bled. He smiled when he lost. Was often he offered to buy his opponent a drink, despite there being no alcohol aboard. He was fearless, maybe foolish. And for a Zarian commander in search of a mate, that was dangerous. See, Zarians didn't choose partners with flowers or dinners or love songs. They tested them. Through combat, pain, emotional exposure, most suitors failed. Some died. Only the worthy bonded. And Silvera, with her elite status and rank, had yet to find a single being who could survive her trial of worth, until Logan Reyes. He was lounging in the observation deck one evening, legs up, arms behind his head, watching a dying star when she approached. "I've reviewed your file," she said, arms behind her back. He didn't move, didn't even sit up. "Hope I passed." "You did not apply." "Then what am I being judged for?" She walked closer, close enough to see the faint burn mark near his collarbone. "For existing," she said. "You're unusual. You're the one with 4 hearts," he replied, grinning. "I'm just a guy with a lucky streak and a strong jawline. Most males tremble when I speak. Maybe they've never had a strong woman yell at them before." He stood, finally facing her ITU, or at least I2 neck. "You speak like you're already chosen," Silvera said, tone sharp. Logan leaned slightly forward, smirk. "On full display? Is this flirting? Or foreplay?" That's when she smiled and lunged. The fight was brutal, sudden, and strangely beautiful. She struck with inhuman speed. He dodged with instinct. She swept his legs. He rolled back to his feet. They collided, flipped, blocked, and clashed. No weapons, just fists and muscle and momentum. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to keep up. And he was laughing. When she finally pinned him, knee to his chest, her breathing rough, sweat slicking her arms, he looked up and said, "You should know, I don't go down this easy for just anyone." "You talk too much," she muttered. "And you hit harder than any ex-girlfriend I've ever had." For the first time in years, Silvera felt something stir beneath her armored skin. Not just heat, curiosity. A strange, pulsing warmth that spread across her collar and lit the edges of her thoughts. She stood and offered him a hand. He took it, grinning like a man who had just survived a car crash and wanted to do it again. He didn't win. He didn't lose either. The trial wasn't over, but something had begun, something neither of them expected. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't strength, it's connection. The next morning, Logan Reyes woke up with a bruise on his ribs, a black eye, and the biggest grin in the galaxy. He hadn't just survived a Zarian combat trial, he enjoyed it. Even the ship's AI seemed confused when he asked for a replay of the fight footage, replaying Trial of Worth. Level 1, you should be unconscious, the AI said. Logan watched himself getting body slammed across the sparring, smacked by a 7-foot-tall alien warrior woman, and nodded with satisfaction. That's the moment I think I fell in love. Word of the fight spread fast. The crew whispered in the halls. Few laughed, few stared. But most watched Logan with new eyes, not as a rescued stray, but as someone who'd done the unthinkable, faced Commander Salvara, and walked away with all limbs attached. Meanwhile, Salvara avoided him. For 3 days, she didn't speak to him, didn't even look at him during briefings. She buried herself in duty reports and ship operations, refusing to explain why her pulse surged every time she thought of him. It wasn't just the fight, it was the way he looked at her afterward, not as a conqueror, but as someone who saw her, the real her, the soldier, the woman, living creature under all that control. No one had ever looked at her like that before, and that was a problem. Zarians weren't supposed to feel distracted by their potential mates. Mating was sacred, logical, genetic, ordered. But Logan was none of those things. He was chaos with a heartbeat. He was funny. No Zarian male had ever made her laugh before, or asked questions she'd never considered. Why do you have 4 hearts? Because 2 would be inefficient. So you love twice as hard? That's not how it works. Maybe it is. Maybe that's why I'm still thinking about you. Salvara didn't know what to do with that kind of attention, so she ordered another test. A real one. One that should break him. The Dream Chamber. It was a telepathic pod designed to confront subjects with their deepest fears and regrets. A test of emotional control. Most Zarian initiates didn't last more than 5 minutes. Logan stayed in 434 when he emerged. He was pale, soaked in sweat, and silent. He didn't speak for 2 hours, stared at the stars. Salvara watched from the command deck, arms folded. She'd meant to scare him, push him away. Instead, he'd passed. Again, she approached him that evening in the hydroponic garden. He was sitting near a glowing moss wall, eyes distant. "What did you see?" she asked quietly. He didn't turn to her. "My old unit, Earth Marines. We were surrounded. I gave the wrong call. 3 of them died." Silence. Then he added, "I've never told anyone that, not even Earth Command." Now he turned. "But I told you. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Maybe I'm just tired of hiding things. Or maybe I trust you." Salvara stared at him, stunned. Trust was sacred. To Zarians, it was the foundation of mating. Not just physical ability, not just biology, trust. And he gave it to her like it was the easiest thing in the world. That night, her bioluminescent patterns pulsed for the first time in years. She stared at her reflection, the soft glow spreading across her collar, chest, and neck. That only happened when a Zarian body began. Preparing for bonding, she ran tests on herself, of course. Blood scans, hormonal levels. All results confirmed the same conclusion. Logan Reyes had triggered a biological response. A maid bond had started forming. Salvara cursed softly in Zerd. It was impossible. He was a human, and worse, she liked him. The next day, Logan found her in the training bay again. This time, she was waiting. "You sent me into a dream trap," he said, hands on hips. "You volunteered." She shot back. "You keep testing me like I'm gonna run. Maybe you're the one who's scared." That struck her like a plasma bolt. But she didn't show it. "I fear nothing," she said. He stepped closer. "Then stop hiding." His hand brushed her arm, just fingertips, barely there, but her breath caught in her throat. "You're glowing," he whispered. "I'm overheating," she lied. "You're lying," he said, stepping even closer. They stared at each other, silent. Then she said, "One more trial." He blinked. "You've got to be kidding me." She shook her head. "It's the final one." "What's it involve?" Her voice dropped. "Vulnerability." Logan frowned. "More than dream trauma and emotional confessions?" "This time," she said, "you don't fight, you feel." And with that, she took his hand, formally, openly, in front of the crew and led him to the bond chamber. Whispers followed them like shadows. One crew member murmured, "He's actually doing it." Another whispered, "She chose him." Inside the chamber, she removed her armor. Logan didn't look away, didn't ogle, didn't grin. He just stood still, awed. "You're beautiful," he said, soft as a breath. She laughed, just once. "You're insane, maybe," he said. "But if this kills me, I'll die happy." And as the bond ritual began and her skin glowed brighter, the ship's systems recorded a new anomaly. Zarian bond initiation confirmed. Hybrid mating sequence begun. Cross-species compatibility, 99.4%. Salvera leaned in, her four hearts. "Thundering, you're not just surviving this, Logan Reyes." She kissed him. "You're changing everything." The chamber lights dimmed. The air grew thick with heat, not just from the bond ritual, but from something deeper. Primal, Salvera's bioluminescence spread across her body like liquid light. It danced along her arms, pulsed over her neck, and flared across her chest in perfect rhythm with her four racing hearts. Logan stood still, breath shallow, eyes locked on her, not out of fear, but reverence. No one had ever looked at her like that. "I've read about your rituals," Logan said quietly, "but reading and being in one, totally different feeling." "Do you want to stop?" she asked. He stepped closer. "Not even a little." She reached out and touched his chest, fingers gliding over an old scar. "You've been through too much pain, Logan Reyes. I've survived worse. This isn't about survival anymore." Her voice trembled just slightly. "This is about choice." She didn't expect him to respond the way he did. Logan took her hand and pressed it against his heart. "Then I choose you," he said. "Even if I don't understand all of this yet. Even if we're two different species, I choose you." That was it. The bond completed. In Zarian culture, bonding wasn't a flash of passion. It was a cascade of shared trust and energy. The moment their intentions aligned, Salvera's body sealed the biological contract. The symbol on her collarbone, usually faint now, glowed. Bright gold. And then something impossible happened. Logan's chest began to glow too, not with Zarian light, but with a soft, pulsing warmth. As if her biology had taught his how to respond, she stepped back in shock. "That's not supposed to happen," she said, voice low. Logan blinked. "Had I brushed my teeth? I'm good, right? No human has ever responded like that. Ever." She was studying him now, not with suspicion, but wonder. Your cells are adapting. He scratched the back of his head. "So, what? I'm glowing because I passed your weird alien compatibility test?" "No," she said, walking around him slowly. "You're glowing because your body accepted mine and gave something back." She tapped her wrist console. The chamber's sensors lit up with biometric readings. Both of them, Zarian and human, were now sharing energy signatures, connected, bound. "This shouldn't be possible," she whispered. Logan raised an eyebrow. "So, does this mean we're dating now? Or is this more like a cosmic roommate situation?" Salvera actually laughed, not a small chuckle. A full, beautiful, disarming laugh. "I have no idea what I'm doing," she admitted. He stepped closer again. "Good. Me neither." But outside the bond chamber, things were changing. News spread through the vortex of dawn. It's faster than plasma through coolant lines. Salvera, the decorated commander, daughter of a noble Zarian bloodline, had bonded with a human, Terran, an outsider. a species considered physically inferior, emotionally unstable, and genetically incompatible. Except he wasn't. Logan's test results were posted to the science division within hours. His immune system was adapting to Zarian hormones. Neural activity now mirrored Salvara's rhythm. His own pheromone output had increased by 60%. The bond wasn't just emotional, it was biological. Suddenly, Zarian officers who had once dismissed Logan as comic relief were eyeing him with something like awe. Salvara's second-in-command, Lieutenant Rack, confronted her. In the command deck that evening, you dishonor your command with this. Hybrid act, he growled. She didn't flinch. He passed the trials. He passed me. That's more than I can say for most Zarian males. You know what this means? You're no longer eligible for high command, can never ascend to the Council of Warlords. I never wanted a chair at their table, she said coolly. I want a life, and I want him in it. Rack stepped closer, face tight with disgust. You've let a human touch you, inside the sacred bond chamber. She didn't blink. I let him in, and he saw all of me. I've never been more Zarian in my life. Logan entered the bridge right then, knowing casual, chewing on something from the food synthesizer. Hey babe, these purple root sticks. Tastes like spicy chalk, but I think I'm starting to like it too. Am I interrupting a standoff? Rack turned, eyes flaring. You dare enter the command bridge during a formal I dare a lot, Logan interrupted. Get used to it. Rack turned to Salvara, practically spitting. You let this speak for you? No, she said, walking toward Logan and taking his hand. He speaks for himself. I speak with him. Rack stormed out, but not before. Throwing over his shoulder, the High Council will hear of this. Logan turned to her as soon as he was gone. Did I just screw things up? No, Salvara said. You just made us legends. That night, they sat together in her quarters. No armor, no politics. Just two souls who had chosen each other, despite the odds. Logan lay back on the bed, arms behind his head. So what happens now? Do we get matching robes? A ceremonial dance? Do I get a cool title like Consort of Steel? Salvara chuckled, her glowing fingers tracing lazy patterns across his chest. We wait for the High Council to summon us. There will be questions, accusations, maybe exile. He looked up at her, serious for once. Would you regret it? No, she said, leaning down to kiss him again. But they might. And somewhere deep in the ship's AI core, the system recorded a new historical marker. First humans-Aryan bond pair confirmed. Compatibility level, exceptional. Anomaly detected. Mutual adaptation in progress. A week passed, and nothing felt. The same not for the Vortex of Dawn, not for its crew, and especially not for Commander Salvara. Every corridor she walked through carried whispers, not even hushed anymore. She could hear them officers from engineering, navigation, and even security speaking her name like it was a warning. Some were impressed, some were afraid. Zarians were trained to reject fear. But this was different. Salvara hadn't just broken a rule. She had changed the rules entirely. She had bonded with a human, and worse for the traditionalist, the bond was stable. Logan Reyes, Terran-born, Earth Marine, professional troublemaker, and casual smartass, had passed every biological, emotional, and mental threshold of the sacred Zarian mating trials. Not only had he survived the trials, his body had started to adapt beyond them. New data came in every day. Neural synchronization, chemical alignment, even shared REM cycles. Logan's dreams now included symbols from Salvara's native language, symbols he'd never seen, never been taught, and yet described in perfect detail. That shouldn't have been possible, Zarian. Bond pairs shared a form of subconscious resonance, but only within their own species, Logan. He was rewriting centuries of biology just by being near her. The ship's science officer, Dr. Krillin, stared at his scans like a student seeing magic for the first time. This human is either a genetic miracle or a galactic mistake, she muttered. Salvara answered, or both. Normal. Logan was brushing his teeth awkwardly with a Zarian 2-prong crystal brush he still didn't understand. "It's like flossing with a fork," he mumbled, spitting into a sink that glowed when it accepted biofluids. "You people really need mint." Salvera stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching him with a look that made her own heart stutter. "You're adapting faster than I expected," she said softly. He looked up at her reflection. "You say that like it's a bad thing." "No, it's terrifying." Turned around. "For you or for me?" "For both." They didn't speak for a moment. Then he walked over to her, still holding the ridiculous brush. "I get it," he said. "This Bonder people take it seriously. You feel like this is dangerous. But I'm still me, Vara. Still Logan. Still the idiot who flirted with you after a concussion." She smiled, but it was strained. "You're changing. Every scan shows it. Your pheromones match mine. Your heart rate syncs with my own when we sleep. You react to danger before I give orders. You're saying I'm becoming Zarian?" "No," she said, brushing her fingers over his chest. "I'm saying we're becoming something new. And that was the real fear. Not that. Logan was too human, but that he was too compatible." The High Council's summons arrived 2 days later. A sleek black transmission drone landed in the docking bay, bore the crest of Zarian authority and the seal of the Council of Purity, a religious offshoot of traditionalists who believe that bonds must never cross species lines. The message was simple. "Commander Salvara, you are hereby ordered to appear before the High Council on Sorinth Prime. Your human is to accompany you. Failure to comply will result in immediate decommission and species-level investigation. This is not a trial. This is a reckoning." Logan read it twice. Then once more for the dramatic effect. "Well," he said, stretching his arms behind his head, "sounds like a family dinner." Salvera didn't smile. She was already thinking 6 steps ahead. Sorinth Prime wasn't just the Zarian capital. It was a fortress of law, tradition, and genetic supremacy. Half the council likely saw her bond as blasphemy. The other half probably wanted to study Logan like a frog under glass. "I don't trust them," she said. "Then we go in loud," Logan replied. "Let them see us. All of us." The shuttle that took them to Sorinth Prime was silent the whole way. Logan wore formal Zarian robes, deep gray with silver trim, tailored to fit his broader human frame. Salvera wore her commander armor polished to gleaming obsidian. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. As they approached the council hall, a towering spire carved into the side of a glowing mountain, Logan squeezed her hand. "Last chance to run off and start a farm somewhere." He joked. She didn't laugh. But her grip tightened. "I'd rather die, Zarian, than live pretending I didn't love you." Logan blinked. That was the first time she'd said it out loud. And just like that, his heartbeat synced to hers again. The council hall was massive, 17 elevated thrones, each occupied by a representative of the bloodlines. Below, dozens of observers from across the sector sat in silence. Everyone wanted to witness the moment a human would be questioned as the mate of a Zarian commander, the head elder. High Matron Kelleras stared down at them. "Commander Salvera," she said, voice echoing. "You stand here accused of violating the sacred genetic rights. Do you deny bonding with this human?" Salvara said boldly, "I confirm it. And you, Terran Logan Reyes, do you understand the implications of this?" Logan looked up at her and gave a half smile. "Probably not. But I understand her. It's enough for me." A murmur rippled through the crowd. High Matron Kellera narrowed her eyes. "You mock our ceremony." "I'm not here for ceremony," he said calmly. "I'm here because your strongest warrior chose me. I didn't force this. I just didn't. Run. You're dangerous. Not unless someone threatens her." Salvera stepped forward, pulling back the collar of her armor to reveal the glowing mark on her skin. "The bond is real. I would fight for it or die for it. Laws say I must prove his worth. Say he already proved it without lifting a blade." Kelleras stood slowly. "Then let the trial of echoes decide. If his love is true, he will survive. If it is not, his body will fail." Salvera turned sharply. "That trial is ancient, cruel. It hasn't been used in centuries." "Then, let this be the time we test the impossible, the High Matron said. Logan glanced between them. What's the trial of echoes? It reads your soul, Salvara said, voice tight, and shows you the one thing that will break you. He smiled grimly. Guess we'll see if I break. Asterisk the trial of echoes. Ancient, brutal, not spoken of in formal society. Not taught in schools, not even whispered in barracks. Salvara had only heard of it once, as a cadet. A tale told over a campfire by a half-drunk war priest with more scars than fingers. A trial so intense, it doesn't kill the body, it crushes the spirit. You face your deepest truth, or your greatest lie. No one escapes unchanged. Now Logan Reyes, a man who once slept through a radiation storm, stood shirtless in the center of the ritual chamber, while 17 council members watched like vultures. A thin, glistening mist curled along the floor. A dull hum vibrated from the walls, ancient machines waking up after centuries of silence. Salvara stood behind the glass barrier, fists clenched so tightly her knuckles cracked. She was not allowed to enter, not allowed to speak. All she could do was watch. A keeper of rights, face hidden behind a bone-white mask, approached Logan. Do you consent to the trial of echoes? The masked figure asked. Logan shrugged. I mean, really, but since this is the only way I don't end up dissected in a lab shore, why not? The keeper didn't laugh. Zarian ritual didn't leave room for humor. A glowing crown-like band was placed on Logan's head. It extended filaments thin as hair into his scalp, connecting to his nervous system. The room lights dimmed. The hum rose. Begin, the keeper intoned, and the world disappeared. At first, Logan was back on Earth. A bright blue sky, the scent of salt water, a half-finished bottle of beer in his hand. He was 25 again. Shirtless, tan, and alive in a way that felt too easy. But something was wrong. The people on the beach had no faces. Their laughter looped like broken audio. The waves moved in reverse. Every time he blinked, something changed. A lifeguard tower turned into a military bunker. A surfboard turned into a coffin. The beer turned into blood. He stood up, heart pounding. Then he saw her, Salvara, but not as she was. She stood across the sand, her glowing eyes cold, expression unreadable. Her armor gone, her body fading around the edges like smoke. I never chose you, she said. The words hit him like a blade. I pitied you. You were a curiosity, a Terran joke. He stumbled back. No, that's not true. You think a scarred, broken soldier from a dying world could earn me? She said, voice low and cruel. You think you belong among stars? The beach warped. The sky cracked. Sand turned to glass. She stepped closer, growing taller with each step. You are small, her voice echoed. You are not enough. And then the illusion shattered, not because it ended, but because Logan refused it. He dropped to his knees, hands clenched in the glass sand. I've heard worse, he said aloud. I've told myself worse. The trial tried harder. It showed his fallen comrades, their faces twisted in blame. His commanding officer screaming, his father calling him a disappointment, his old lovers walking away, Salvara turning her back again. Again. But Logan didn't break. He whispered their names. He stared at his failures, and still he stood. You're not real, said, wiping blood from his lip. None of you are her. None of you know her. And none of you saw what I did. The trial threw one last vision. Salvara, dying, reaching for him, himmed him too late. He walked through it. He didn't flinch. The trial ended, outside the glass. Salvara saw the moment it broke. The lights inside the chamber flared white, then dimmed. The filaments retracted from Logan's scalp. His knees buckled, but he remained upright. Steam rose from his skin. Sweat drenched his chest. But his eyes opened slowly, clear, focused, alive. The masked keeper stepped forward, voice louder than before. The human has passed. Gasps filled the chamber. The High Matron rose from her throne. Her silver robes shimmered with sacred energy. "This is not possible," she hissed. "No Terran could survive the trial. Your physiology is too fragile. Your minds are stronger than you think," Logan said hoarsely, stepping toward the glass. "You wanted proof? That I love her? That I see her?" I faced every fear, every lie, and I still walked toward her. He pointed at Salvera. "Because I know her, not the glowing skin, not the armor. Her, the one who speaks like thunder and listens like silence." Salvera moved through the door, not waiting for permission. She reached him, wrapped her arms around him, and for the first time in her life, wept, not from pain, from something far more dangerous. Hope that evening, Council deliberated for 5 hours, but the decision had already been made. The human had survived a sacred trial. Biological compatibility had been confirmed, and worse. Of all four, the traditionalists, the bond had triggered Zarian soul markers in a non-Zarian being. That had never happened before. They couldn't deny what the stars had chosen. The next morning, Salvera and Logan were summoned back into the hall. The High Matron's voice was flat. "The Council has no legal grounds to dissolve your bond, nor to imprison either of you. You are free. For now," and she added bitterly. "But understand this, Terran. You have awakened something in our kind. Something ancient. Something dangerous. The galaxy is not ready for you." Logan stepped forward, putting his arm around Salvera. "Then I guess it's time the galaxy got ready." As they left the hall, hand in hand, Salvera whispered, "You truly passed." He looked down at her glowing collar, at the mark he now shared. "No," he said, smiling. "We did, asterisk." The moment the Starcruiser left Sorinth Prime's orbit, Logan exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. He stood at the viewport, arms crossed, staring at the planet shrinking behind them. "You okay?" Salvera asked, stepping beside him. "No," he said honestly. "I just told off 17 of the most powerful people in your civilization, and I think I'm still high from whatever was in that trial room," she smirked. "Echo gas. It stimulates synaptic memory responses. Well, it also made me hallucinate a talking sandcastle that accused me of being emotionally unavailable. So, thanks for that." She laughed openly this time, and he realized he would never tire of that sound. Back aboard the Vortex of Dawn, things had changed. The crew saluted Salvera with tighter posture. They nodded to Logan, no, not out of mockery, but respect, and maybe fear. He wasn't just the human who survived. He was the outsider who had passed a Zarian soul trial and walked away bonded to their most decorated commander. He had become legend. Even the ship's AI had updated its protocol. User Logan. Reyes now carries commander-class recognition tags. Relationship status with Commander Salvera. Fully integrated bond. Emotional sync threshold, 91.4%. Salvera stood in the bridge, hands clasped behind her back, feeling something she hadn't in years. Lightness, not weakness. Freedom. For the first time in her military life, she wasn't carrying the weight alone. And everyone on the ship knew it. Later that evening, she found Logan in the training bay. He was shirtless again, tossing a weighted baton between his hands and working. "Up a sweat? You're pushing yourself," she said from the doorway. He turned. "You're watching me. Always." They met in the center of the mat, like two magnets drawn to each other. Without a word, they began to spar slow, fluid, and intimate. At a fight. A dance. Every strike was a conversation. Every block a confession. She lunged. He dodged. He swept her legs. She twisted midair and landed like smoke. They crashed to the floor together, panting, their eyes locked. Then her hands slid to his chest, fingers brushing the bioluminescent mark, now faintly glowing beneath his skin. "You've changed," she whispered. "So have you," he replied, brushing a thumb along her jaw. "You're softer," lies, she said, but her lips curved. Their kiss wasn't urgent. It was patient, familiar, the kind that only came from knowing the other person's scars and choosing them anyway. The room dimmed, as if the ship itself understood what was about to happen. Salvera peeled off her training armor, They were biological signals. And right now, they read one thing: complete trust. Logan gently traced them, fascinated. "You're glowing." "Oh," he said. "It's the soul light," she explained, voice barely above a whisper. "It responds to you." "To this, I think I'm starting to glow back," he joked, but his breath hitched when her fingers found the mark on his chest. "You are," she confirmed. "No human ever has. You shouldn't be able to. Maybe I'm just built different." She leaned in close, her mouth brushing his ear. "Oh, I know you are." Their intimacy wasn't rushed. It was a slow fusion, two bodies shaped by different worlds learning how to speak the same language. Her touch was precise, deliberate, exploratory. His was warm, instinctive, and reverent. Zarian physiology responded to emotional intent. Her skin shimmered with every word he whispered. Her heartbeat synced to his. Their bond marks flared as one. When they reached the height of connection, and the mark on Logan's chest pulsed like a second heart, something shifted. Wave of energy rippled outward from their bodies, visible only to the ship's scanners. Alert. Biofield anomaly detected. Cross-species soul resonance achieved. Genetic imprinting underway. Later, they lay together in her quarters naked, under a silk sheet designed for zero-gravity climates. Limbs tangled, breath still catching. Logan stared up at the ceiling. "Vara? That thing we did, that's not normal, is it?" she said, resting her head on his chest. "It was transcendent. I've had some pretty good nights. That wasn't sex. That was a fusion," she finished.
Ow.
"Our bond is now permanent. No council can break it, not even death." He went quiet then, said, "So we're basically married." "In Zarian culture, yes," chuckled. "Well, I should probably stop flirting with the science officer then." Salvara sat up sharply. Logan raised his hands. "Kidding? She smells like engine coolant and seaweed." She narrowed her eyes but allowed herself a smile. He pulled her back down. "So, now what?" She looked at him, serious. "Now, the galaxy changes," and it did. Within weeks, Zarian communication networks lit up with speculation. The first cross-species bonded pair with stable soul markers, a Terran no less. Debate turned into inquiry. Inquiry into obsession. Other humans, diplomats, scientists, even a few soldiers began receiving invitations to Zarian stations, and then more bonds started to form. Not many, but enough. Enough to terrify the old guard. Enough to awaken something. Long buried, the idea that maybe, just maybe, humanity wasn't a mistake of biology, but the future of it. On the vortex of dawn. "No," she said. He looked at her, surprised. She smiled, touched his face. "I don't think we were meant to. That's more powerful." He leaned down and kissed her again, and deeply. As stars moved silently around them, behind them, the ship's AI quietly logged a new category in its databanks. Bond classification. Humans are in type Alpha. Status. Evolving. Prediction. Unstoppable. Asterisk 6 months later, the galaxy was watching Earth. It wasn't out of pity anymore. It's not because humans were fragile. Not because they were newcomers to the stars. They were watching because humans had done what no other race dared. They loved without permission. They bonded beyond biology, and they changed the Zarian Empire from the inside out, one impossible romance at a time. It started with Commander Salvara and Logan Reyes. Now, it was spreading, not fast, not easily, but undeniably inside the Grand Assembly Dome on Varnick Station. The largest interspecies summit in modern history was underway. Over 200 delegates from across the Alliance had gathered, and at the center of it all, two figures stood behind a crystal podium. Logan Reyes, dressed in formal, dark blue Earth Fleet attire, and beside him, Salvara in ceremonial Zarian robes. They were giving the keynote address on the future of cross-species diplomacy and the ethical recognition of bonded unions. And they were winning the room. "We were never supposed to last," Logan said, voice steady, amplified across the dome. "She was bred for war. I was built for survival." But we didn't just meet. We chose each other, and that choice changed everything. Salvera stepped forward, her silver eyes sweeping. Across the crowd, my people once believed that compatibility was determined by genetic sequence, that love could only follow logic. But my bond with Logan proved something else, something no simulation ever predicted. She placed her hand over his chest. Connection makes its own rules. That line made headlines across 8-star systems before they even stepped off stage. Later that night, in their diplomatic suite, high above the station's glowing atrium, Logan stood shirtless at the window, sipping a glass of something fizzy and purple. He stared at the stars in thoughtful silence. Salvera stepped behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist, and pressed her face between his shoulder blades. "You're quiet," she murmured. He smiled. "I'm just wondering how a half-naked nobody from New Mexico ended up being the poster boy for interstellar romance." She turned him around. "You're not a poster boy. No, you're my bonded mate. That's far more dangerous." He laughed, then pulled her close, brushing his lips against hers. The kiss was slow, lingering, familiar and still electric. They moved to the bed. She paused to touch the mark on his chest. Still glowing, still warm, still growing. 2 weeks later it began. Salvera collapsed during a strategy session aboard a neutral station. Logan caught her mid-fall. Medical teams rushed in. Her vitals were erratic, her globe sang wildly. She drifted in and out of consciousness, whispering something in Zarian dialect even Logan hadn't heard before. They brought her to a hybrid medbay, designed for mixed-species patients. And what? They found shocked even the oldest Zarian healers. "She's not sick," the lead medic said. Logan's jaw clenched. "Then what is she?" The healer looked up, eyes wide. "She's pregnant." Silence. Then Logan blinked. "Like with a baby, with a hybrid," the healer confirmed. "Half Zarian, half human, the first of its kind? Your bond didn't just fuse your souls. It rewrote the rules of reproduction." Logan sat down hard. Salvera smiled weakly from the medbed. "Built different, remember?" she whispered. He reached for her hand. "It's not the word I'd use." The news of the pregnancy shattered every known protocol across both civilizations. Some called it a miracle, others a threat, but no one could ignore it. The child was growing fast, developing in ways neither species fully understood. Enhanced neural activity, accelerated cell fusion, emotional feedback that rippled through Salvera, and even affected Logan's dreams that night. They'd lay side by side, Salvera's body curled protectively around the forming life inside her, while Logan whispered old Earth lullabies into her skin, and sometimes her womb would glow in reply. It wasn't just a child, it was the future. 9 months later, aboard the Vortex of Dawn, under the care of the finest healers and scientists from Wu. 5 different races, Salvera gave birth to a daughter. Her skin shimmered faintly, half obsidian, half bronze. Her eyes were human in shape, but gleamed with silver Zarian glow. She had 1 heart. At first, then 2 more developed by the end of the week. She cooed in Zarian rhythm, laughed like Logan. They named her Nova, for the light she brought 10. Years passed. Nova grew faster than either species predicted. Smarter, stronger, but more than that, kinder. She asked questions no adult dared. She comforted people with a glance. And when she smiled, both Logan and Salvera saw the best parts of each other. One day, as the family stood on a high bluff overlooking a quiet Earth outpost, Nova turned. "To them, will other people like us be born?" Salvera answered first. "They already are," Logan added. "We were the first, but we won't be the last." Nova nodded slowly. "Good." She didn't explain. She didn't have to. She understood. Already at 10 years old, what most empires had failed to learn in 10,000, love isn't limited by biology, or boundaries, or bloodlines. Love chooses. And when it does, the universe has no choice but to evolve with it. Back aboard the Vortex of Dawn, now a legendary vessel displayed in diplomatic halls and educational archives, a new inscription was carved into its main corridor, he wasn't supposed to survive her mating trial. Instead, they made a new galaxy together. Beneath that, etched in Terran and Zarian, Logan and Selvera bonded, unbroken, forever. The end. And the beginning of everything else?